there, how did, first start off, how did you get to this point?
I'm not really sure. I really don't know.
Some feuds on Street Outlaws were never supposed to become public. But after years of silence, Justin Shearer has finally started revealing the names of the racers he couldn't stand working with behind the scenes. While fans watched the high-speed battles on Discovery Channel, real tensions were building off camera. Cheating accusations, rule arguments, and friendships collapsing under the pressure of money and fame. So which Street Outlaws stars did Big Chief truly hate the most? And what exactly happened between them that pushed those relationships past the point of no return? Join us as Big Chief finally names the 5 cast members he clashed with the most. Number 5. Murder Nova. Of all 5 names on this list, this one hurts the most, because what happened between Big Chief and Sean Ellington is not primarily a story about television or production disputes. It is primarily a story about 2 men who were genuinely close, who built cars together, ran a shop together, defined an era of street racing together, and who ended up on opposite sides of a line neither deliberately drew nor crossed back over once it appeared. Justin and Sean were co-stars and business partners at Midwest Street Cars, the Oklahoma City shop that served as the operational and creative home of the 405 crew throughout the show's peak years. They tuned cars together. They built some of the most iconic vehicles in Street Outlaws history side by side. Ellington's Murder Nova and Justin's Crow were the 2 cars the show's audience became most attached to. And the chemistry between their drivers was that of men who had been in the same room for so long, they had developed a shared vocabulary for what the work was supposed to look like. The cheating accusations were what put the first public crack in the partnership. In Season 3, Big Chief called out Murder Nova on camera for allegedly running nitrous oxide against the established rules of the list. In Season 6, he accused Sean of using what he called a leave button, an illegal device that manipulates reaction time at the start line. Both accusations were serious. Both were made publicly, on a show watched by millions. And both were made by Big Chief about a man who had been one of his closest friends in racing. The formal end came in 2021, when Murder Nova stepped in to fill the racemaster role after Big Chief's departure from America's list. It was not a hostile takeover. It was a vacancy being filled by the most logical available candidate. But the optics of Sean taking the position that Justin had vacated on a show that Justin had helped build from the ground up was not lost on anyone watching. In a later interview, Justin was honest about what had happened between them. The exhausting filming schedules and the pressures of road life had taken a toll on Sean emotionally, and the 2 men had simply gone in different directions. "It's not by choice that I'm a lone wolf," Justin admitted. "I'm a jerk. I only know one thing, and that's racing for a living." The friendship did not survive honesty. The thing that makes the Murder Nova situation the most significant entry on this entire list is not the cheating accusations. Those are common in street racing, where the line between a legal modification and a banned one is often genuinely contested. What makes it significant is that Big Chief made those accusations publicly, on camera, about someone who was simultaneously his co-star, his business partner, and his closest friend in the sport. Most people in that position protect the relationship. Big Chief named it on television. Whether that was integrity or recklessness depends on which side of the fence you were standing on when it happened. So if the closest alliance in the 405 crew could fracture under that pressure, what happened when someone from completely outside the OKC world came in and started rewriting the competitive hierarchy without asking anyone's permission? Number 4. Precious Cooper. Precious Cooper arrived from Memphis, Tennessee, earned the nickname Queen of the Streets by winning races the established hierarchy had not expected her to win. and became one of the most popular and most polarizing figures in the franchise's history in a very short space of time. Her driving was legitimate and her style was unapologetic, but her collision with Big Chief was not, at its core, about personalities. It was about rules and about who got to make them. The clash came during filming of America's List Season 2 in 2022 and centered on the Race Your Way In policy. Under this system, racers from Memphis and other cities could earn their way onto America's List by winning pre-season qualifying races. Big Chief's complaint was specific. A disproportionate number of Memphis-affiliated drivers were appearing in the competition without going through the same qualifying process as everyone else, and the imbalance was undermining the credibility of the list as a merit-based ranking. The drivers who had earned their positions on the 405 list through years of competition were sharing a race card with people who had bypassed the standard entry process. Precious' position, as reported by those present, was that Big Chief was protecting his inner circle and using the rules as cover for geographic favoritism, keeping the Memphis drivers at a disadvantage by applying standards inconsistently. Both positions had logic. Neither was fully wrong. The specific irony is that America's List had been created precisely to broaden the competition beyond Oklahoma City, to bring in the best street racers from across the country and let them compete on a level playing field. The dispute over the Race Your Way In policy was a dispute about what level playing field actually meant in practice, and it is the kind of dispute that has no clean resolution when both sides genuinely believe they are the ones defending fairness. And in the middle of the first driver meeting of the season, with both positions on the table and no resolution in sight, Big Chief and his girlfriend, Jackie Brosh, walked off the production line and drove home. In his March 2022 YouTube video, Justin confirmed his exit was driven by disagreements with production company rules and that he left the first driver meeting with a very bad taste in his mouth. He said, without getting into too much detail, there were a lot of things that had changed the way he thought about Street Outlaws. He denied money or losing races was a factor. He described a man who had built a system of rules he believed in and was no longer willing to stand behind rules he did not. Precious Cooper went on to become one of the most prominent figures in No Prep Kings. America's List was not renewed for a third season. But the walkout was not the first time Big Chief had found himself at war with a cast member over the integrity of the competition. So who in the original 405 crew was openly saying that he and Big Chief had never got along? And what was the long-running dynamic underneath that admission? Number 3. Doc Love. James Love, known on Street Outlaws as Doc, was part of the original pilot cast that launched the show in 2013 and the driver who, by his own admission, never got along with Big Chief from day one. The tension predated the show. It was baked into the structure of the 405 list long before Discovery Channel knew either of their names. Doc Love told Drag Illustrated in 2025 that it was no secret he and Big Chief had never really got along, and that with Murder Nova being best friends with Chief in those early years, it was essentially him against the two of them. The structure of the 405 list meant that the people at the top had influence over who raced who, when, and under what conditions. Big Chief's position as racemaster gave him institutional authority over a competitive landscape that Doc Love was trying to climb. The perception, fair or not, that the racemaster was using that authority to protect his allies and make life harder for his rivals was one that Doc Love held openly and spoke about without reservation. The incident Doc remembered most vividly was not a race he lost. It was a race he won. He described an out-of-town event against Petey Smallblock, where Big Chief had told the opposing team to put their money together and the 405 would match it. The pot ended up at $21,000. Doc won. With all the OKC boys standing behind Big Chief, their own money on the line, Doc beat the team that Big Chief had vouched for. That win, in Doc's telling, was the moment that meant more to him than any other from his time on the show. Not because of the money, because of what it proved about the structure he had been fighting against. As the show evolved and the cast expanded, Doc's position shifted. By the time the Street Outlaws franchise effectively ended following the cancellation of No Prep King's 2025 season, he was racing at independent events alongside Dominator, Farm Truck, AZN, and Mons, original cast members building a post-TV life around the thing they loved before any camera arrived. Doc has described the 405 shootout events as a return to what made street racing worth doing in the first place. No production company rules, no drama packaged for a Monday night audience, just cars and clocks, and the people who know the difference between a real race and a television version of one. The feud with Big Chief never had a dramatic resolution, just time and distance, and two men who had competed on the same list for over a decade and had never fully been in the same corner. So if the in-group tension with Doc Love was always there, under the surface, what happened when a driver from Louisiana showed up, beat Big Chief on a real street with real money on the line, and forced a reckoning the 405 list had never faced before? Number 2. Kai Kelly. Kai Kelly is from New Orleans. He is not OKC. He is not 405. He does not have the history with Old Route 66 or the institutional roots in the list that Big Chief spent years building. And when he showed up in the Street Outlaws world, he made an immediate and emphatic statement about what outside talent looks like when it is given access to a competition that had been run primarily by one regional crew. The rivalry between Big Chief and Kai Kelly began in earnest when Kelly won a Cash Days race in Texas that included multiple top 405 racers, among them Big Chief himself. Cash Days was not a television event. It was a real street racing competition held on public roads in Texas with real money at stake. And Kelly, an outsider from Louisiana with a turbocharged Camaro called the Shocker, came in and beat the people who were supposed to be the best in the country. Big Chief lost that race. The loss was documented. The implications were discussed for months in the fan community. What made the Kelly situation different from the other names on this list is that the issues were not primarily personal. They were competitive and structural. Kelly's cars consistently pushed the boundaries of what qualified as a street car. Heavily modified, purpose-built for drag racing performance, in ways that multiple OKC veterans felt crossed the line between a street car and a pro mod. The Shocker and its successors drew complaints from multiple drivers on the 405 side, not just Big Chief. But Big Chief, as racemaster, was the person responsible for adjudicating those disputes, and his credibility as a fair arbiter was undermined every time a car he questioned went on to beat his own. Kelly went on to become one of the most prominent figures in No Prep Kings, building a fan base that rivaled Big Chief's own at the peak of the franchise. The regional divide his arrival exposed, OKC versus the rest of the country, became one of the defining tensions of the America's List format, and was directly connected to the Race Your Way In dispute that eventually produced the Precious Cooper walkout. Big Chief had built a list around the idea that geography should not determine outcome, only speed should. Kai Kelly agreed. He just happened to be faster. And the 405 crew, for all its tradition and institutional history, had no answer to that argument because the argument was made on the track in real time, in a real race, with real money, in a state that was not Oklahoma. You cannot dispute a time slip. And if Kai Kelly's challenge was competitive and honest, what about the fifth name on this list? The one whose problem with Big Chief was loudest on social media and least supported by anything on the track. Number 1. Reaper. James Goad, known as Reaper, operated at a different level from the other 4 names on this list, where the disputes with Murder Nova, Precious Cooper, Doc Love, and Kai Kelly all had specific incidents and documented on-camera moments attached to them. The conflict between Big Chief and Reaper was primarily a conflict of words, and Reaper produced a lot of them. Reaper accused Big Chief, publicly and repeatedly, of manipulating the show's politics to keep his inner circle at the top, while sidelining anyone who threatened that arrangement. The accusations were not specific the way the nitrous oxide claim against Murder Nova was specific. They were structural, a general charge that the race master position had been used as a tool for maintaining a hierarchy that protected certain drivers and made it harder for others to advance. The irony was not lost on fans who followed closely. Reaper's own car had been a recurring source of eligibility questions, with critics arguing it resembled a pro mod more than a street car and should not have qualified under the 405 rules that Big Chief was supposed to be enforcing. The man accusing the race master of favoritism was himself a beneficiary of whatever flexibility existed in those rules. Reaper's shots were amplified by the social media environment that surrounded Street Outlaws in its later seasons, where every accusation reached thousands of viewers, regardless of whether it was based on anything verifiable. Big Chief's public response was largely silence, which is the response of a man who has decided that engaging with a specific kind of noise costs more than it returns. The silence was read by Reaper's supporters as confirmation and by Big Chief's supporters as dignity. Both camps kept their positions. Reaper never fully walked away from the Street Outlaws universe. The feud with Big Chief never produced the definitive public confrontation that the forums kept promising. It remained what it had always been, a loud, unresolved disagreement between a man who built the institution and a man who believed the institution had been built crooked. What it also remained was a useful data point about how the Street Outlaws franchise ended up consuming itself. By the time the No Prep King season was canceled in 2025, the drama that had been manufactured for entertainment purposes and the drama that was genuinely real had become impossible to tell apart, and the audience that had originally tuned in for the racing had spent so much time watching the politics that the racing itself was almost incidental. Big Chief's departure from Street Outlaws did not end his racing career. Through Midwest Street Cars and his YouTube channel, he returned to the grassroots version of the sport that existed before the cameras arrived, building cars, running real races, telling unfiltered stories without production company rules and race-your-way-in policies, and drama edited for maximum television impact. Jackie Brosh has been beside him through the entire post-TV chapter. The franchise itself ended in 2025 when Speed Promotions Racing canceled the final races of the No Prep King season after 15 seasons of the original show and countless spin-offs. The original cast, Doc Love, Dominator, Farm Truck, AZN, Monza, are racing at independent events, working out what the post-TV version of their careers looks like. Murder Nova runs 187 Customs. Precious Cooper remains one of the most recognizable names in female street racing. Kai Kelly is doing no prep. Reaper is still on the internet. The 5 names on this list are not just a roster of people Big Chief clashed with. They are the full map of what Street Outlaws became under the pressure of fame, production demands, and the forces that arrive when a raw underground sport gets turned into a television franchise watched by millions. The 405 list had been running on Old Route 66 in Oklahoma City for years before the cameras arrived. It ran on trust, on community standards, and on the shared understanding that the rules existed to make the competition real. Why the protection was no longer worth the cost? Either way, Big Chief is still racing. Not for the cameras or for the list, just racing, the same thing he was doing on Old Route 66 at 9 years old before any of this started. So after 5 feuds, 1 exit, 1 canceled show, and 1 dismantled franchise, is there a version of the Street Outlaws story where any of this ends differently? Or did the institution carry the seeds of its own collapse from the day it let the cameras in? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.